Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Preston here. And, we got a problem here, and shit like that. But I'm just saying, like, this is my first video, like, I'm not stranded or anything. But I'm just saying, like, this is my first video and shit like that, of my mechanic videos and shit like that, But, oh shit, is that a B? I don't want a B to be right there. But basically, the problem is, right, is that literally, like, alright, let me get down to the ground over here. Like, obviously I have, like, a really small bike right here, right? Obviously, I'm pretty big for it, so I know the reason why everything happened, and stuff like that. But we're fixing it, and shit like that, So, basically, so let me go out right here. So, you see the problem right here, right? Like, the fucking, like, everything is fucked up, and shit like that. This right here is disconnected. The whole fucking exhaust pipe is just disconnected, and shit like that, I already know what I need to do. I just need to get a screw, and shit like that, and screw it up like that, with the bolt, and shit. Or, or then, or I could be able to, and then basically right here, you just need to get a bolt, and then screw it right here. I already got the bolts for this part, The main agenda is that I need to get a bolt right here, and shit like that for this part of the gas pipe. Because this right here, I just need the like, let's see if I could zoom in. It's a perfect angle. I need to have, both of these for the top area right here, and stuff like that, because the reason why is because when you go up, and shit like that right here. Let me see if I can get the picture of the bolt without the sun being in my eye. So, like, you see right here, and stuff like that, how that's going in, and shit like that, All I need to do is just have this. I just need to get this piece right here and that piece, so that I could connect it on top of there, and shit like that, And it's really light work. Extremely, actually, and shit like that, It's just this motherfucker broke down, like literally, not even like like it just right when my ride started with this thing, and shit like that, Like this shit just came off, and shit like that, It's just like, cause over I was riding, I was like, and then after that, like I was like, going like pushing like 30 and shit, like almost like 40 or something. I think I was like almost pushing like 30, and shit like that, But but basically, like, after that, when this came off and shit like that, how I knew is because it literally didn't fucking, like, go no more. Either that, or it just, like, it was extremely loud. It wasn't like, it was just like, almost kind of like a fucking, like a, what is it called? Like a damn, like a doom buggy in a way, and shit like that, when, either that or when the muffler's not on there, and shit like that, But I'm just saying, though, but I need to fucking fix that, and shit like that, you feel me? And shit like that, But all I need to do is go to McClendon's and shit like that, get that bitch, and shit like that, get that bolt, and shit like that, you feel me? And shit like that, and that's the thing, and shit like that, because literally, like, bro, like, it's just like, I always have a fear of this motherfucker, like, literally, like, boom, like, just, like, exploding, because it's like, I'm gonna just stand my black ass up. And shit like that. And shit like that, this is my Aunt Kim's house, and shit like that, wonderful house, and stuff like that, and then, and shit like that, it's like, literally, like, look at that fucking height, like, this is a regular, like, fucking bucket right here, and shit like that, like, and I'm right here, I'm like 5'8", and shit like that, this is right here, and shit like that, so that's how small that is, and shit like that. So, like, literally, when I'm sitting on it, like, it's putting some pressure on this motherfucker, I'm not gonna lie, you know, and shit like that. Because this isn't any, like for a grown-ass man, like, this isn't a dirt bike that I should be riding. This is, like, for, like, little, like, kids, like, you know, like, from, like, 4 to, like, 10 years old, you know, and shit like that, you know. Like, I'm 18, you know, and shit like that, you know, about to turn 19, you know, soon, you know, and shit like that, you know. But, you know, July 28th, let's go. Let's go. It's almost there, man. July 28th, you know, and shit like that, you know. But, that's the thing, though, man. But, yeah, man, you know, and shit like that, you know. But it just, you know, fuck, you know, I'm just like, what the fuck happened to the damn brakes? What? Don't tell me this fucker, broke. No, oh, no. Nah, I clipped it. There we go, are you fucking kidding me? Oh, no, is there a bolt that's supposed to be right here? No, what? Oh, this is... Whoa! Bro, I was like wondering, because this motherfucker literally almost... Like it's still acting weird. It's like wiggling. It's like, what the hell? Oh, wait. Oh, shit. Oh, what the fuck? Let me see, bro. Cause like we got a problem here, you know, on live television, you know, and shit like that. So we got a problem here, you know, and shit like that, you know, like literally, like, this shit is like wiggling like crazy, bro, you know, and shit like that. And I was like, why, you know, and shit like that, because I was tightening, because I tightened this and I tightened it like how much I needed to tighten it, you know, and shit like that, you know. So when I go right here, you know. Let me see. Man, it's kind of hard to see, you know, and shit like that. Like, let me see if I could, like, let's see if I could put on, like, a flashlight. Maybe. I don't even know. But if you see right here, there's nothing right there, you know. And then, like, because right here, there's nothing right here and shit like that. I'm like, what the fuck? Nothing right here. And it's not supposed to wiggle like that. I know damn well it's not supposed to. Like, it's also wear and tear and shit like that, you know. But also because it literally came off, it literally comes off like this. I'm like, well, at that point, that's not supposed to do that, you know, and shit like that, you know. So, yeah, we gotta clip that back. Fuck. Can we clip that back on there? There we go. So, yeah, you know, and shit like that, you know. But the main thing and shit like that, you know, ow. You know, the main thing is, because how I know that is because there's a bolt right here, you know, and shit like that, you know. And, or let me see. Yeah. Let me see. Cause, let me look from far. Yeah, because if you could see, you know, and shit like that, you know, there's, oh, right there, nothing right there, but then something right there, you know, and shit like that, you know, like, there's something that's supposed to go right here and shit like that, you know. So, let me look and see and shit like that, you know, what I need to do so I can put that back on there. Alright, so, I did not get the gear. Because this motherfucker right here was literally, like, I couldn't find, like, the bolt at all. You know, because, you know, yeah, you know, because my aunt didn't, you know, have any bolts, you know, or anything like that. You know, and shit like that, you know. And, you know, I don't got, like, you know, any, like, serious money like that right now. But with building myself up with my YouTube, I will. You know, and shit like that, you know, most definitely. Lots of money. But I'm just saying, you know, with you guys, with my supporters, oh, yeah. But I'm just saying, so... with this and shit like that, you know, this motherfucker was a pain in the ass and I couldn't find a bolt. But either way, when it's on here, it still works. But the one thing, bro, reason why I got a video, because for this right here, I know I don't have the bottom piece at all. But fuck, I'm trying to, like, you know, just ride and get my ass home. You know, it does, like, that's just more just an extra piece, you know, and shit like that, you know. So, like, So basically, like, you know, what I'm just gonna do is just plop it up there and shit like that, you know. And then basically, oh look, it's hanging, you know, and shit like that, you know, and plop it up there, you know, and shit like that, and then see how it's going. And I already have the bolts for this too. It's in my pocket. Let me actually double check if it's in my pocket though. Gotta be. Shit. Hold up. So it ain't in my pocket and shit like that, you know, but I know it's somewhere and I'm gonna find it, you know, and shit like that. But I am just really excited about, damn, where the hell did I put that, the damn, oh, right here. But where the fuck did I put, right, so I found this piece. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna put this bolt onto there, you know, and then connect it right there. Yeah. Alright, so I'm back at my house and stuff like that, you know, and, you know, I'm in my garage, you know, which is my shop, you know, and shit like that, you know, and basically, let me, put my pants up and shit, you know, but then, what I did right here, you know, like, I'm not really done with it, and I still need to kind of, hold up, I think I need to go to right here, so, you know, when I go right here, you know, like that one, oh shit, oh, I thought that bolt was missing. So that one bolt that I had, you know, that was, you know, and shit like that, that was showing y'all before in the last clip, you know, and shit like that, you know, basically, like, it's kind of like, you know, it's more the kind of, like, sturdy now, but it's, you know, you know, and overall, like, you know, like, it's on there, but it's not tight, you know, like, it needs to be tightened up, and overall, I need to find a way where I can, screw this, let me see if I can show you where I can screw this screw more on, like, onto the bike. But I mean, shit, I mean, when I got, you know, brought back home and I had to bring the bike back, you know, and shit like that, because I broke the fuck down, you know, and shit like that, you know, but, you know, but, I mean, hey, you know, I mean, it still stayed on there, so, I mean, but I think, honestly, though, and I think what a lot of y'all are gonna say is that, honestly, I should have just tried the ride home. I was too, kind of, like, into this, and, like, I just, like, and overall, the bike takes hella long for it to start, you know, and shit like that, you know, like, it's a cheap made fucking, you know, like, Japanese made bike, you know, also not need to, get, like, kind of tilt back up the handlebars, you know, and shit like that, you know, but yeah, man, you know, and shit like that, I'm just like, you know, this is a cheap ass made bike. I love the bike, like is, you know, eventually, cause I love the frame of the bike, and you know, and I would keep the frame and everything like that and shit, because basically, like, it's just, you know, I'm about to build this into like another, like and put a whole nother engine in here, you know, in like eventually and shit like that in the future, once you know, I get like enough money and shit like that, so I could put you know, an engine in there, a mean ass one too. I just have to cut through here, you know, and shit. But anyways, and shit like that, you know. You know, but that's the thing, man. You know, so I got that, and what I overall did, and what was more of the, kind of more of the work that took me kind of long, was that over here where where this was hanging from before, you know, and shit like, oh shit, like where this was hanging from before, you know, and shit like that, you know, like I'll actually just replay like a little clip and shit like that, you know, if I can. Let's see if I can. But yeah, you know, and stuff like that. We're back at it again and stuff like that, you know, but basically, like, you know, that's what I'm saying, man. It's just you know, yeah, man, and I just, you know, I did that, you know, I connected that, and it wasn't really that hard. It's just more of like, I'm gonna see if I could screw this more on, you know, to see if this can close more, you know, and shit like that, you know, but I highly doubt that, you know, and shit like that, you know, like, you know, because the reason why, I don't think you guys are gonna be able to see that, you know, and stuff like, I don't think you guys are gonna be able to see it. Let's, like, you know, I'm gonna see if I can edit, you know, a picture. If I can't, that means I just, you know, oh, let me show, actually, let me, fuck. Oh, yeah, you see right there? Yeah, you see right there? Yeah. So basic, oh yeah, and you see the bolt right there, and you see that, so basically, if you, man, it's a really fucking, like, it's so dark, bro, like it's so hard to kind of catch that view. So where are we working at? Okay. So you see right here, this is, so I don't need to show a picture. So this right here, this is like grudged up to here, with this bolt. I just was using this because this is what, my Aunt Kim had, and I just, I don't got a whole toolbox for myself. I just use like my, regularly my parents' toolbox, and I just work with what they got, and shit like that, because I work with my parents too, with fixing things, but, so credit to my parents, and also, let me get my ass up. Credit to my big bro though, man. And shit like that. My brother Taim, like, he hooked me up, bro. Because I think before in my other videos, like, because if you guys seen, like, I had more hair right here, and he hooked it up. I was at an event, and shit like that. My parents were working at an event, during Father's Day and shit, and he was just there, and he gave my dad, a haircut. And then he gave me a haircut, and shit like that. And then he also got this other dude a haircut. But he got paid, some good money and shit like that, from the haircuts and shit like that, I'm not gonna say in particular because, I mean, overall that's, that's not my business and shit like that, But I'm just saying, like, that is the thing and shit like that. But, that is the thing, man. He did pretty good, and he lined it up not too well. I mean, right here it's a little, like, rough kind of right here. But, I mean, overall, yeah, it's a little rough, but I mean, but it's just like, overall, it's, he did a good job, man. He did a good job, and shit like that, and he's just starting, he just started, getting into it, and shit like that, and I'm just saying, man, I just had to, call it out, because, it looks very nice, and it was very nice for him to do that. But back into the topic and shit like that, you see how this is, like, all the way grudged up right here. And shit like that, I mean, there's a little bit of room, but I don't think there's not much room to really, like, do anything, like, it's already, like, it's, let me, fuck, oh, shit, I was touching that, it's already kind of, like that, but honestly, I feel like it really would turn on right now, overall, like, it would have turned on, I'm just saying, like, that's some work, but it needs to fucking close and shit like that, But I'm just saying, but it's just that's what it is, and that's the thing and shit like that, I just cannot believe that shit just happened, but it just, hey, and shit like that, bills gotta be paid, and shit like that, because I'm about to be making money eventually with this, so here we go, and shit like that with the video, and shit like that, but trying to figure out what I want to do though, because also with the brakes right here, and shit like that from the brakes from before, so I'm trying to think like do I want to try to finish with this, or do I want to try to finish with the exhaust pipe, and shit like that, but yeah, man, let's see. So we're going to probably do the exhaust pipe first, since there's already a screw neck. I'm going to just see if it can just be tightened a little bit, because it's just the only thing that can really save this, right, that can really save, the pipe right here is, like, either maybe a little, like, other, like, little, like, flat sprocket, and shit like that, or, hold on, I need to think, actually. Either the flat sprocket, or I need to go to McClendon's, and shit like that, to go and get, and find the bolt for that, because I guarantee McClendon's would have that type of bolt, and bolts aren't that expensive, they're fucking cheap as shit, so I can just, go over there and and find a piece, and shit. And also I could actually, no. Oh, shit. I forgot, like, we actually might have some tools in here, and shit like that, in a toolbox, and shit like that, So actually, we don't actually have to go to McClendon's, like, I don't gotta spend no money, nor my parents gotta spend no money, and shit like that, And that's the thing, and shit like that, And yeah, and stuff like that, But we're gonna start with the exhaust pipe and we're gonna get to work right now. So I don't know if this is the right size of the bolt, or anything like that, and shit. But like, I'm gonna look more in the bike and shit to see if this is the bolt that I need, and shit. But yeah, man, and shit like that, I just want to, but I'm not gonna take it apart or anything like that, yet. I like until I actually will have a really good determination that this is the size of bolt that I do need, and shit like that, and that's the thing and shit like that, So, yeah, hell no, this doesn't go to anything. This is way too big, because overall, it's just like because it's just like, I didn't want to use my brain that much to focus like with this, but I just wanted to more visually see it. But yeah, this doesn't go to anything, stuff like that. I mean, it does go to something, but I'm just saying with this bike, for the exhaust pipe right there, it does not go to anything. So yeah. So honestly, I think the progress with everything and stuff like that, is going well, and shit like that. Honestly, like, I would say right now the bike is rideable. I wouldn't say that it's fixed or anything like that, but I would say that it's more rideable now, and shit like that, But it's just more of like, it's just, they both still have problems and shit like that, I could still go for a test ride to see if it's still legitimate, because overall, like, it's gonna turn on, and shit like that, and overall, it's gonna still, it's gonna still go up more to speed now, and it's not gonna buffer down. At least that's what I'm thinking, because and shit like that, But the one thing I'm still about, and stuff like that, is this right here, and shit like that, Because it's just like, I know before, like, I could be able to get a piece, but I'm just saying when it's like that, it's just more of kind of like I said before early in the video, like, is this gonna be able to actually like transfer into here, and shit like that, because that's only how far the bolt can go and shit like that, but can actually go all the way, up there, and shit like that, I mean, will the smoke, will the gas go, will the smoke go all the way into here, and shit like that, because as long as I can work with this right here, and shit like that, and kind of toy with that to make the gas like go into into here, and shit like that, I can be able to, to manage to go, and to be able, and for this to function, and shit like that, and overall I could be able to, to ride, to normally ride. It's just, this gotta be touched up sooner or later, or it's just gonna fall off. But it still can ride though. It's still overall I see it, and shit like that. I see it working more than what it did before, because it literally was just buffering and it just was slow, and it didn't, because I was literally trying to like rub it and shit like that, and it wouldn't do anything and shit. It literally would just go, and it wouldn't do anything, and shit like that. But when I looked, it literally the whole gas pipe was down. But then the main thing I just didn't know was that just everything was disconnected. Because what I'm used to is this only disconnecting. I know this shit is annoying a lot of people, and I know it's annoying me too. And eventually I'm going to get to that, but it's already bolted quite well into it, and I kind of forgot to pull it up. But, this is what I'm used to, where this falls off. Not this, and shit like that, like I'm not used to that, and shit like that, so that's the thing. But overall it works, and shit like that, I'll go for a little like a little test run and shit like that, to like tomorrow, to see if it can function right, and I can, and overall I'll do a video and shit like that to see if to see, so I can show y'all, to see if it works or not, and shit like that, it's all about, practice makes perfect, because I'm just starting to, get into this kind of game, and overall and shit like that, it's just, that's the thing and shit like that, it's just more of like, I'm a person of perfecting my craft, but at the same time, I'm also a person of chilling out and, not perfecting of much, and shit like that until I, at least get some sleep or at least the next day hits or whatever, because right now I'm kind of tired right now, and stuff like that, because what time is it? Let me go look. It's 12:43 a.m. right now, and shit like that, so that's the thing. And overall, like, I started recording at, like, I would say, like, I think, like, 6 or 7 or 8 between those and shit like that, So, I've been kind of just in this process for a while, and overall, I've been working on this all day, and shit like that, So, yeah, man, I am kind of tired, and shit like that, you feel me? But, we getting it done, and shit like that, and overall and shit like that, man, I'm just saying, like, it still can run, bro. It still can run. It's just, I need to get it fully fixed of what it needs to be fixed. But for now, that's, good enough for now, and, and to test write it a little bit, and shit like that, and that's the thing and shit like that, So, yeah, man. But yeah, man, but that's gonna be it for me though for today, and stuff like that, But but even though it's not fully fixed, but it's at least fixed enough. It's not like the pipe isn't hanging no more. So, overall, at least it's gonna have a little bit of help, and shit like that with the functioning of the bike, and stuff like that, instead of it kind of like, like going slow when I'm just pulling it, because either way it goes, but it goes slow, but it doesn't go fast at all, and stuff like that, but but yeah, man, and stuff like that, but thank you all for sticking by and shit like that. I'm tired as hell, and shit like that. I'm gonna go and relax and shit like that. I'm probably gonna just either go and finish editing the video tomorrow,